Hello guys, welcome back to my channel, and today we're kind of just sitting down and getting into the marriage, divorce and dating again topic. Firstly let me say this is a video based on my own life experiences. I am not a life coach. I am not going to be giving advice. Basically what I'm saying is everything that I'm telling you is from my own perspective, my own experiences, and if you decide to choose anything I say in your life, please know that it is up to your own discretion. But yeah, that's just a little disclaimer. I am not telling anyone to get married, divorce or start dating again, basically is what I'm saying. Yeah, so let's get into it. The way I I'm just looking down at my notes, so if I do look down, that's why. But the reason why I just wrote these down is because I did pose a question on Instagram for people to just ask me a little bit about marriage, divorce and dating, and then I separated all of the questions into those three categories just so that it's easier to answer. So we will get into it, starting with marriage. So I'm almost 32 years old. I'll be 32 in about 2 weeks. I got married when I was 24. I had just turned 24 in that Feb, and I got married the March, like a month and a half after. And I was married for 3.5 years, had no kids. I did want kids, but I don't know, it just didn't happen. Thank God it did not happen. Yeah, Lord, you saved me, Jesus. Thank God it did not happen, and yeah, we tried for a child, couldn't have a child, and now I'm so grateful that I didn't get my prayer answered, because God knows the exact timing of my life and when that should happen. So that's basically it in a nutshell. Married for 3.5 years. So I got divorced in October 2017. I was 27 going on 28. The next year I would have been 28. So let's start with a light-hearted question: how to plan a wedding without getting despondent. So planning a wedding is stressful in itself. I think depending on the amount of time that you have to plan a wedding also defines how much stress that you'll have. You will experience stress throughout the planning process, but I do think that it's important to realize that when you are planning your wedding, yes, you want to do stuff that your parents may like or family may want you to do, but ultimately whoever you invite, the kind of wedding that you have, whether it be big or small, the amount of money that you spending, let it be up to the husband and the wife, or wife and wife partners getting married. You guys should ultimately decide that this is what we want, and see how everyone's opinions and expectations can fit into your bigger plan. If it doesn't, I know for me personally, it's just my personality. I was just like, if I don't want it, I'm not doing it. But that's just me. You can step on some toes, so just try and manage also the relationship while you're planning a wedding, as to not destroy it by kind of choosing your own things. For example, if your parents want a specific thing to be done, then just go ahead, if you can kind of fit in without taking away from the bigger picture of what you want, then see how you can accommodate it, but don't do anything that takes away your happiness and your vision of what the day is supposed to look like. What is my advice for young couples getting married? So when I just got divorced, my first thing, and when I say first thing, for the first year or two after that, I was like, you shouldn't get married young, you shouldn't be doing anything in your 20s that is like proper adulting stuff. Let's just have fun and whatever, but now honestly, there is no formula to marriages working. There's no formula to relationships working. and there's no formula to the time of when things must happen, because everyone's lives is so different. People getting married young, I know myself, I got married young at the age of 24. That in my eyes is super young. Would I do it at that age again? I would not recommend it for myself. But I also have friends who got married when they were like 22 or something like that. My friend was 22 or something, and they are still married about 12 years later. So honestly, it there's no such thing as a formula to X and Y is going to equal a happy marriage. You know, you have to kind of figure out how does this fit into your life, and if you are mentally in a position where you are ready to settle down and be married, or do you need to experience life, especially if you grew up in a strict household, experience life, experience partying and going out and spending time with your friends and just being a little reckless, in a case where you are just experiencing having fun, to kind of get that out of your system. So once you finally settle down, you won't long for the streets basically. So would I get married again? The answer is yes. I definitely would get married again. So I'll definitely get married again. I'm not opposed to getting married, but I'm not going to be putting myself in a position where I'm putting myself under pressure to get married and making that the ultimate goal of being in a relationship, because I think once you start kind of going through life with like, this is what must happen next, this is what must happen next, this is what must happen next, you kind of miss the growth in between there, because you're so rushed to get to the next stage, to kind of tick it off of your list of things that you've done in your relationship. So I do think that yes, I would get married again, but sure as hell not going to be rushing to get married again. And if I don't get married again, it is what it is. So the next question is it worth it to get married? Before you get married, you obviously have to establish the reasons of why you're getting married. Is it something that you're doing for the wedding and for the ring and for the party and for the this? Because that's gonna fade as soon as the wedding's done, and then you're gonna be sitting with real marriage issues. And are you willing to sit in that? So is it worth it to get married? Again, you have to decide for yourself, being in a relationship, is this something that defines your relationship? Is a marriage, does it define your relationship? Or can you work and have a relationship, a partnership, where it's long-standing without the marriage? You obviously have to look back on your own religious and personal kind of stance on that, and make a decision from there. What would you do differently? Being married, what would I do differently? Stop taking that bullshit. So what I would do differently is nothing. I feel like from my side, and I'm not saying that I'm perfect, and I'm not saying that I didn't contribute to my marriage falling apart. But what I am saying is I feel like I did everything that I needed to do, and I held my own where I should have in the marriage. And there are some parts where I kind of didn't show up, specifically in the cooking department. I hated it. Sorry, let me just put this phone on loud because it keeps distracting me. I need to see if it rings. So I hated cooking, but the reason why I hated cooking is because I just felt, why must I come home and cook and do things and feel like I'm pulling all of the weight? So I didn't want to do it, and I didn't do it. Would I do anything differently? No, I wouldn't. I would still not cook, as an example, as one of the things. I mean, that's not why we got divorced. But yeah, I felt like by the time I was confident enough to leave the marriage, I did feel like I had given enough of myself to finally be like, you know what, I'm out because I'm choosing myself now and this marriage must end. So I'm going to just tie these two questions into each other and kind of just make it one. It says, what was the most challenging thing and how did you know it was over? The most challenging thing in marriage was definitely not feeling supported by my partner. And when I mean supported, I just mean specifically to my marriage and what it was. I didn't feel supported financially, and I don't mean I didn't have girlfriend allowance. I mean that because my ex-husband had decided to leave his job at some stage, I felt like all the pressure was on me, and I didn't even agree to him. Like, we didn't have a consensus that it was cool for him to leave his job. So we kind of, yeah, everything kind of just went to the dogs after that, and I felt like I was carrying the weight of having to be the provider in the house. Look, there was drops and drabs of from coming in from his side, but I felt like I had to be the provider. I felt like I had to still come home and cook. That's what I'm saying, which I didn't anymore, because those kind of things weren't being done on there. And also we reached a point where because we got married so young, the older we grew, we started finding out things about each other that actually, I don't know if this person is for me, because so we weren't aligning in terms of beliefs and what we wanted for the future and just different outlooks on life. I felt like he was very much so finding himself and trying to see where he fits into this world, really. And I just needed stability, and I needed someone who was just focused and moving in a direction of where they were going. Yes, we do jump to different things, but at the core of who you are, I just needed that to be stable, and I felt like it was not, which it wasn't. So at that point, I decided, you know, I'm not cut out for this. I will rather struggle by myself than with a man who's not pulling his weight, and I said I'm out. This next question, last question on the marriage section, is my top 3 tips. My marriage failed. What do you mean my tips? I don't have tips. Like I was saying, there's no formula to any marriage or relationship or friendship working. For me personally, there's no one way of doing it. So I would be a really bad counselor, because I'm just like, figure it out and make it happen. But so starting on the divorce topic, the first question is, what was the reason? So I basically touched on it a little bit in the marriage section. So my reason was not infidelity, it wasn't abuse or anything like that, which is kind of like the hard and fast definite deal breakers in any relationship, I would hope. But like I was saying, I didn't feel supported. I felt that because we got married that young, we grew apart and wanted different things, and I almost didn't recognize myself and who I was with anymore, because sometimes in marriage, if you don't kind of grow together, you lose kind of sight of each other, but you also lose and forget who you are in that as well. So it's important to just keep yourself grounded in a marriage and staying true to who you are. What were the red flags? Unhappiness, sadness, irritation. So unhappiness was a big part of, obviously, I think why anyone chooses to leave. When you start feeling like you've compromised so much to the point where you are genuinely not happy, and you living a life of unhappiness for a long time, and you kind of just smiling and putting on show for people, but really at home you're not that happy. That was a big red flag for me, where I could see that, you know, like I'm saying, you lose yourself and you lose what you're about in something. Then it was a red flag, and I needed to end that. How do you know it's time to go? Also, off the back of what I just said, you will know that you've compromised beyond the point of compromising anymore, where you've just given so much off of yourself that no matter how much you give, it's not going to change, and it's not going to head in the direction for the better. So you will know that it's the right time. And when you're ready to choose yourself in a situation, it will be so easy to leave once you get that internal affirmation, I think. Your support system in healing. So obviously when I got divorced, generally most people move back home, move back to their parents. That's what I did. I moved back home, and I actually moved back home I actually moved back home on Women's Day in 2017. How's that for a little self-empowerment on Women's Day? But I moved back home in August, and I got divorced in October. And throughout that period, you know, I had the support of my family. Listen, when I say support, I don't mean that they agreed with what I was doing and getting divorced, you know, but I still had the support of my family, where they just wanted me to be, I guess, happier and be better. You know, at the time that I got divorced, I felt like I was so far already mentally divorced, if I can say that by the time that I got divorced, I felt like there was some sort of healing in that when the day that I got divorced, it was now a breath of fresh air and a new journey of where I was starting to feel like myself again. But from the time that I decided that I wanted to, up until the time that I did, I do feel like there was a lot of self-healing in that process. And the healing process for me itself, I don't know how to explain myself and my personality, but I pretty much, thing happens, I get over it as quickly as possible, and I move on with my life. It's as simple as that. And I'm not saying like it's always that easy, but in this situation specifically, because like I said, I was already mentally checked out for a very long time. By the time it happened, I felt like I've already gone through everything. So you know, it's almost like, if I can just make an analogy, it's almost like someone that's drowning and, you know, struggling through it, and by the time you finally see that you're about to come up for air before you pass out and drown, for me it was that. By the time I was getting divorced on the day, I felt so relieved and so at peace with what was happening, that the healing process had already taken place. Was it mutual? Yes and no. So the reason why I'm saying it was is because the time that we had decided, I think it was in June or July, the time that we decided to actually get my boyfriend's home. The time that we decided, let me just rush and just get this going. So the time that we actually decided to get divorced, it was kind of like a mutual agreement. So we, you know, we both wanted it, we were both unhappy, and he used to ask me all the time, are you happy? Are you happy? I mean, eventually one day I said, I'm not happy, and he said he's not happy either, and we both just decided, you know, it's time to quit this thing and start the process. And it was weird because I think that was June, and until about July or something, we even still shared the same bed. We slept in the same bed. Didn't have sex. That didn't happen for months on end before then anyway. Um, so and then eventually he had changed what he wanted, and he didn't want to anymore. And I was just like, you know, this is exactly the reason why I cannot be with you, because you never know what you want. And that again solidified my decision, and I was like, yes, I'm leaving, and I moved to my mom's. I'm gonna keep recording this another time. I just want to be alone and just chat to you guys by myself in the house. But I can't now. So just give me a sum. I'm back, and it's probably an hour later, I think. But anyway, let's move on and continue. So the last question that I stopped with was it mutual? Yes, it was mutual, until it wasn't, and then I got annoyed. So I think I basically covered that. What's the process? So with each kind of marriage, there's different processes. I was married in community of property. We didn't have any kids, and we didn't have that many assets. We had a house on our names, on both of our names, and then just like your normal house contents, car and stuff. So before we went to court, we basically had, before I went and filed, we basically had agreed on the stuff that we wanted. This was at the time when it was mutual, that how we would split everything, and kind of put that down on paper, and then went to court. So how it basically worked, I don't know if it's changed much at all, but how it basically worked in 2017 was you need to go to court and you need to apply. So only one of you need to go and apply, and you will kind of fill out a hell of a big document, just stating everything, especially when there's kids involved. There was a whole section that was so massive, but you'll fill out everything, and then you need to take that document, and it needs to go to the sheriff, which is at a separate place. Luckily, where there is a court, there's only like a sheriff office close by. So in the next road, I took it to the sheriff's office, and you can't give it to you them. So you can't give the application to the other spouse yourself. Even if you are staying in the same home, you have to go through the sheriff's court, and then the sheriff will then deliver this officially. Even if it's the same address that you stay in, the sheriff will deliver this. And then once it's delivered, hopefully if it's not contested or anything, it will then go it will be signed, and I think it will be collected again by the sheriff after a couple of days or something like that. And then what happens after that? Then it gets taken back to court, and once it's back at court, the court will then call you, or you can check in after a while. I honestly can't remember the time frames, but after a while the court will call you, and you will get a court date, and the court date will include kind of I think it will include where you need to be on the day, which section of the building and whatever. But you have to go and file in your area where you live. I had originally went to another place, which wasn't it, so I had to go closest to where I stay to go and file. And I think it cost me honestly 250 rand or 280 rand to get divorced. It's crazy. Also being said, there weren't any lawyers involved because we didn't have any kids. Everything was kind of straightforward, to put it that way. But then from there, yeah, had the court date. So the person who's filing for the court date for the divorce will then go to court. The spouse can be there, although they don't have to be there unless there are kids involved. Then you need to be there because the judge will ask you like stuff about the kids and that kind of arrangement. And yeah, it is quite a daunting process once you get there, because obviously, well, not obviously, everyone who's getting divorced is basically sitting together in court listening to each other's stories and waiting your turn. You go up and the judge kind of goes through things and will ask you some questions, whatever is in the document that you supplied. And if there are kids, I know when there were kids with other people, they had then been, the spouse or the parent had been called up and they kind of just were asked questions by the judge and their thing gets done, and then yeah, judge says, okay, you are divorced, and that's done. That's it. It's finished. Well, in my case anyway. Bear in mind, when you are getting divorced, if you are married in community of property, your spouse has access to your pension fund and stuff like that. So I highly recommend always getting married out of community of property. What is it called? To have like a prenup situation, and then you get with and without accrual. You can just find out from a lawyer about that. But not to say that you are going to separate, but it also covers you in terms of business. If you are starting a business or anything like that, it's just better to be married like out of community of property. Another thing that I wanted to say on support system, I actually forgot about it, is, one of my frustrations while going through, after the divorce and just, when things are now starting to settle and kind of people find out about it and stuff like that, it's difficult when your partner is still in contact with your parents, and this was just after we got divorced, and I felt very unsupported in that regard, because it's almost like pick a side. You can't be answering his calls and he's crying and whatever. So he has his family, you guys are my family, you need to support me. And one of the things that I needed to feel support was him cutting all ties from him. It didn't happen immediately, but it did eventually happen, and that's just something that you need to manage as someone who's supporting someone else going through a divorce. How do you know you're healed and ready to move on without triggers? I think for anyone going through this process, it's so important that you will see someone. Before we had gone through the process of getting divorced, we were seeing our pastor, and he was kind of counseling, and eventually it was like, there's actually nothing that I can do. You guys don't want to be together. There's no change that I see happening here, so there's nothing that I can do. And yeah, so how do you know that you're healed? I think it's something where you have to constructively make an effort to change who you are. And I'm not saying change because someone else is making you change, but whatever you want to see as the best version of yourself, it's important that you make those changes, whether you're listening to podcasts, going for therapy sessions, just doing things that enhances your outlook and inward look on yourself and life and relationships. And how do you know you're ready to move on without triggers? I think that's the thing about triggers. They end up, you don't know something is going to trigger you until it does. But it's in your response to those triggers. So you need to identify what triggers you, why it triggers you, and how you can respond, so next time it doesn't really interfere with your peace or disrupt your spirit at any point. So, and also in obviously triggers are brought up by people who trigger you. So in also that, if you are in a relationship, it is your duty to bring it up to your partner and make them aware of what triggers you, why it triggers you, and how you guys can kind of work through that. You also need to do your own self-evaluation and kind of figure out, are you being triggered because you're not working on and trying to get past that thing that happened to you and heal from that. Next question, there's 2 more questions on the divorce topic. Second last one, how do you pick up the pieces? Sure, you know, when you actually first get divorced, it's quite hard because you not only lose your having lost yourself probably in a marriage, but you not only lose yourself, you've lost your partner, someone you probably spend every day with. You lose friends. So you don't only divorce your partner, you're kind of getting a divorce from everyone, and in that, how you're picking up the pieces is basically you need to learn that some people were there for a season. You need to learn how to rebuild yourself. You not only lose like relationship connections, but you also lose physical things, your house, your car, your whatever, and it's so difficult to kind of move past the fact that you feel like you've been done in by life. But it's important for you to find your healing in that as well, where you can say, okay, sometimes don't even pick up the pieces, just go and build a new thing from scratch, because you also don't want certain things in your life, in your new life, that will remind you of your old one. So leave the pieces behind, go and start a whole new life. And I think it's important, you with a therapist, if that's what you prefer, just start mapping out and designing the life that you want, and start doing things daily to work towards that, because then I think that it's easier for you to navigate through picking up the pieces and not so much mourning the loss of things that you used to have, but really getting excited about the new things that you're going to have with this ideal life that you are designing for yourself. Oh my goodness, yeah. This last question. Can you stay in contact with your ex even if you had no kids? Why did we go through this divorce if you still want to be in contact? You are no longer allowed to have access to this new version of the person that I'm building and working on. So, no, you should do it for your own sanity and for your own peace and for your own growth. Close that door and leave it closed. There's no window that needs to be left open to see, hi, are you still there? Are you still doing fine? No. Cut that off completely. Make sure your family supports you, especially if there are no kids involved. Make sure your family supports you by cutting off and severing those relationships that they had. Tough luck, they must just get over it. But you honestly, you cannot have contact with someone that brought you to a point of not wanting to be with them and still have a desire to want to speak to them. Okay, no, we are not friends. This is a new you, a new version of yourself, and there's no place in your life for old things. So please move on from that. Before I move on to the fun stuff, the dating again, I do want to say, just apart from me getting divorced and you know, and the friends and stuff that it comes with. It took me a long time to get over the fact that they were friends that I had in my life. Particularly one friend, she knows who she is, who didn't even so much as speak to me, didn't even ask how I was, didn't do, like, had no form of contact or anything, and she just cut off from me. And I was so hurt by that because I was just like, how are you not supporting me in this stage of my life? And I think I had once addressed it with her after a while, and she said, well, you're not an emotional person and you wanted it anyway. So just also start being okay with people that will cut you off in this divorce process. They'll cut you off and you honestly can do nothing about it, and you have to just be okay and at peace with the forgiveness that you weren't asked for or the wrong that people did to you, because you know, sometimes you're never gonna get a I'm sorry, or sometimes they won't even acknowledge the hurt that they caused you by their actions. So needless to say, it is a tricky, sticky situation, but we move and we grow and we glow and we start doing boss bash things. Yes. And on to dating. Dating once you divorce, let me tell you, is some shizness. It is hectic to get back out there, but don't lose hope. There is hope. But let me tell you, it definitely comes with its own kind of challenges as well, especially if you've been married or with someone for a long time. It can get a bit challenging to get back out there, and also, you know, dating scenes kind of evolve from what you knew them to be. So when you get back in and want to start like dipping your toes in the dating pool again, wow, wow, wow. It is challenging, and it's, yeah, it takes some adjusting. This says I'm dating someone who was married and divorced. I wrote it down as a statement, so I don't know what the question was. That's my fault. But what I do have to say is, when you get back into the dating scene as a divorced person, a lot of people, if not everyone, looks at you like some wounded soldier. I get you, our wounded soldier, but everyone puts that label on you for such a long time, and it's so hard to break that, because people think that you're obviously coming with baggage, or you're coming with your own things, I guess, as a damaged person, and they are kind of clean and pure because they've never been married and divorced before. So that's one of the things that's really, really hard to get over, because you walk around with this label on you for such a long time. The thing that I think for me was, I guess, challenging, so to speak, was people looking at you like you're the poster child for divorce. So I had to get over that a long time. I didn't want anyone to ask me about it. I didn't want anyone to inquire about it or ask me for advice. I was just so annoyed by people asking me about divorce and how to do it and whatever. You know, so, but now I'm like, okay, I'm okay with people asking me about that kind of stuff, but it didn't know me for a very, very long time. So what's the right amount of time to start before you start dating again after being divorced? There's no wrong or right time. I think, you know, for some people, they and also because it's not a blanket situation where everyone has the same kind of situation, because I've heard of some people who have applied for divorce 3 years ago, but because of the up and down and kind of coming to an agreement on kids and whatever, you know, you're not even legally divorced yet, but you've been separated for 3 years, and it's just processes that have kept you from being divorced. So it's unfair to say as soon as you divorce for 2 months or 6 months or 2 years, you know, it's a right time. But for your situation, I think just be mindful of also what the reason was of you getting divorced and kind of taking it from there. Because if you were in a space where it was infidelity or abuse and that sort of thing, I think you need some time where you need to go through the healing process a bit longer maybe than other people. Who, with me, I was just like, I'm unhappy, I'm leaving. So your healing takes a bit longer, and you wouldn't want to go into a new relationship having old triggers and having not worked through things with yourself to get you to a place where you know you're not going to respond to your new partner and kind of treat them like you did your old partner, if you understand what I'm saying. Like almost take out your old partner's things on your new partner. That's what I'm trying to say. There's no right time. I think if you want to get back in and kind of test the waters and stuff, if you're divorced and you want to just get in there and you know, enjoy yourself, go out, I think having a whole phase is the best phase that you can have. Go out in the street, do what you didn't do, go on dates. I'm not saying have sex with people, because in this day and age, please, if you are not doing HIV test with someone before you have sex with them, just do that, okay? So, but I just think that it's important that you just go and test the waters a bit and see what the dating scene and the dating life is about. Don't go and be and date the first person that you meet, because honestly, if you've been in a long time thing and you end it and you're going to another long time thing, you may just feel like you haven't found time to find yourself. So you need to start even dating yourself. Find out what you like, what you don't like, what you enjoy, what are you doing for yourself, that if another man or woman or whatever comes into your life, what are they bringing to the table that is going to exceed what you already do for yourself? Because other than that, you don't need someone who is not going to elevate you. You know, what is my biggest fear of dating? Okay, I think at this point it's better to just kind of put you guys in the place that I'm in right now. So after I got married, was, let's say, I was single for 13 months really before my partner and I met and we started dating. We've been dating since. We're dating for just over 3 years, and I'm loving it. I'm having the time of my life. It's completely different. I'm a new version of myself, and I also love differently to what I had before, because I'm being loved differently to what I was before, and it's amazing. I highly recommend it. But starting out and dating again, my biggest fear with it was, I hope this lasts, because I can't go through another separation or another breakup, and what are people gonna think, and and all of that. So even now, I try and just constantly try and settle myself of that insecurity and fear, because I don't want to get into a place where I'm kind of psyching myself out on something. That's just a hypothetical. I think if I every day put in the work in the relationship, from my side, that even, you know, whatever fear there is, that should kind of trump it. How to find interest in someone. Again, this was specifically after lockdown, having only focused on my career. So I think with everything in life, it's easier to have balance, and you need to physically and be proactive about putting boundaries in place for yourself, where you are saying this is allocated to work. Once work closes and shuts down, I need to shut off, and I need to also spend time with myself. I need to spend time doing things that I love and learning about myself. And also you need to accommodate space in your life for someone else. I truly believe that you won't ever find someone, or God won't send you someone into your life when your life is full. So you need to accommodate and create space for that person. Because if you do meet someone and they are in your space, you're gonna get so annoyed. You're like, I wanna work, I wanna just do my own thing. So you need to create a lifestyle that already has room for that person, and you need to set boundaries for yourself, because working all the time is not. Oh, how do you get back into dating? It's so hard. The people that I experienced into getting back into dating was not nice. Like I was saying, it's so tough getting back in once you've been used to having someone in your life all the time, and now you're kind of just like floating around and trying to find your feet in this dating game and dating scene, and people are actually dishonest about their intentions. I think in the dating game, if everyone was honest about where they're at and what they want, you wouldn't get stuff like F-boys and all of those things, because upfront I can tell you these are my expectations about what's happening. That's just me personally. But go out. The next question says, where do you meet people? And this is the thing, I think you need to go and explore and see what the club scene or party scene, or hang out with friends, with different types of friends, with new friends. Excuse me, just go out and do things differently to what you've already done, so that you can expose yourself to new people. So you need to expose yourself to new people by going to new places, and you need to do a lot of that in your kind of me time, healing and dating again process. So this is how did you know that you're ready? I was so tired of the BS, man. I was so tired of the bull. There was like I was saying, there was a few experiences where I was like, this person is just making me feel really not good about myself in this dating scenario. And when I'm saying dating, I mean where you're single, but you like meeting people and chatting to people and whatever. And there are so many people out there who are just vile human beings, honestly. And if you can, so I knew that, I am just ready, like, to retire this life and hang up my dating scene boots, which wasn't for very long. So I just knew that I wanted to find someone who was really a life partner and quit that dating scene altogether. Dating someone with kids. This one is not for the faint-hearted, I won't lie. So like I was saying, I'm currently in a 3-year relationship, and my partner has 2 kids. So it is an adjustment for someone who has not experienced that life before. When I was much younger, I was dating someone who had a child as well, and that didn't work out because, there was a lot of baby mama drama involved there. Thankfully now there isn't that, and I just feel like there's there's a good understanding between us. But I also grew up from a kind of blended family home, so I do see and I do have experience with certain things growing up and seeing that in my life and in my household, with my parents, my mother and my stepdad. So I do kind of recognize similarities and things that happened in our household, and I'll either apply it to how I do things, or kind of try and do it differently so that it suits my situation. But how it's definitely not for the faint-hearted, and you should daily put in the effort, because you always feel like you kind of like an outsider, but it's a feeling that you must get over, where you purposefully try and involve yourself in your partner's and the kids' lives. Living together before you get married. I think this is the best idea that someone can come up with. I know that a lot of people don't subscribe to it, want to keep themselves for marriage and that sort of thing. And so when I got married, I was living with my mom, and when I got married and we moved in, I moved in with my ex-husband. But now I highly recommend living with your partner beforehand if you can. There's so many things that you learn while you're living with someone, and you can actually see if this is someone that I would actually want to build a life with. Because honestly, if you're not in someone's space, and I don't just mean on holiday and something like that, if you're not in someone's space all the time, and seeing how they respond, it's difficult to make a big marriage decision off of just us dating and you pick me up at my mom's house and stuff like that, because you're completely different when you're at home and kind of in your own space and relaxed and that sort of thing. So I find now that I live with my partner, compared to when, like, before I was married and stuff, I know everything. I know how he is, ups and downs, moods, and why is this way when it's like this. I mean, I don't get it right all of the time, but you can kind of pick up on different things, and if you see all of those things and still choose to stay and still choose to want to be with this person, I think that you've made a very good informed decision. But not spending a lot of time with someone, like if you only get to see them a couple of hours a few times in a week and you don't go on holiday together and that sort of thing, you're in for a big surprise when you do get married. And just do a little stretch here. And the final question is life after divorce. And I specifically left that one to last, because I just wanna, I guess, give everyone who has gone through that process a little bit of hope that you honestly will find yourself in such a good space when you go through the entire grieving process of divorce. It's like death, you lose someone in it, and you need to kind of find your way through being angry and depressed, and working through all of that stuff and learning how to do life without that person anymore, and just finding yourself in that. And when you get a partner that you're with, you have, honestly, divorce and marriage adds like additional 10-20 years of maturity on your life, no matter what age you are. Because even though I'm 32, I feel like I have so much more experience in life that there's certain things that don't even faze me. There's certain things that I couldn't even care about, or people's opinions and that sort of thing, because of the automatic experience that comes with marriage and divorce in itself. But life is a beautiful thing. Life is such a fluid thing. It's always moving, and you have to kind of adjust yourself and move with it, or else you'll always find yourself in this frustrated position where you feel like you're not getting out of life what you want from it. But consistently make a daily effort to be a better version of yourself. I am having, you know, saying living my best life. I'm literally living my best life. It's not my ideal goal life, but my life now is so much better, fruitful, and I'm just so blessed to have a life that I do. And I don't only mean from, you know, a materialistic point of view, but I just mean a fulfilled life. And that's where I'm at with that. So I hope that this helps you guys. It's challenging to get divorced. It's challenging to go through that stuff. It's challenging to even be married or in a long-term relationship, which you basically do feel married. But I think if you just work on, yeah, just kind of being better, responding better, doing things a little better, and also not being so hard on yourself for the things that you didn't accomplish when you were married because you are now divorced or going through a divorce, I think that you'll come out a much better person if you're a lot kinder to yourself. Because life is already tough, man. Like, you don't need to be harder on yourself for things that didn't work out, and just trust that God is in control of everything. That's my 2 cents.